A very good evening to everyone. Um, Over the day, we've spoken a lot about oil and importance of oil to continue over the next decade, 2 decades, or how many decades. We've also had the stark view that energy transition is here, needs to happen. There's something in between which is actually going to take us there much faster, which is gas. Much cleaner fuel, abundance globally, and India has been looking at a huge potential expansion of gas through LNG imports from across the world. So the conversation we'll have now is around powering progress for India using LNG. We'll be talking about what's the potential for LNG, geopolitics around it, how contracts are being managed, infrastructure built, the exchange, gas exchange that has been set up, and what more can happen through it. We have esteemed set of panelists today. Mr. Pankaj Sharma, Additional Director, PPAC Ministry. Mr. C. Laxma Reddy, ED ONGC Exploration and ex-DGH. Mr. Sunit Verma, ex ED Marketing GAIL and ex-CEO GAIL USA. Mr. Satinder Pal, um, CEO of Adani LNG. Thanks for joining, sir. Mr. VK Mishra, I think, is not joined today. And, and Mr. Ajay Mishra, AVP BD, India Gas Exchange. So I think we'll start with looking at what's the potential for LNG in India. And in that context, who better to start with except the government itself? Mr. Pankaj Sharma, Additional Director, PPAC. So your thoughts on what's holding us back in terms of the potential to get to 15% gas, and what can we really do to really get there faster than later?
Thank you, Gaurav. Uh, to begin with, I am not government. I am only a organization which deals and handles data, including projections for future. And most of the, in fact, all of the staff there is from one of the oil majors in country. So I am actually from that side. Coming to your question, today is very important day when COP has ended and with the call to reduce fossils. And here you are asking me questions about how to promote it. So yes, we have a scope for gas, and but before that we have scope for every energy in country. The kind of growth which is taking place in country, GDP, we all know that last quarter it was 7.6%. That shows that what kind of growth is taking place, and every growth needs energy. So what we find, if you see any outlook, there are many outlooks which are released every year, IEA, OPEC, BP. Everyone says that our energy demand will be at least twice, and some of the outlooks say it will be thrice. And each one of the energy within that will increase, except coal, in terms of percentage, but even in that coal increases in terms of volume. So that is the truth for India, that in spite of all the call for defossilizing, oil, gas, and coal will increase in volume terms. Among these, gas is going to grow at speed which is, or rate which is much more than any other energy, except renewables, because renewables are at very recent stage, and those will certainly grow much more. Gas will be almost 4 times from current levels. Now, question comes that quite often we in such conferences we talk about that currently we are at 6%, government is targeting 15%, and it is inching only. Not it doesn't look like that it will reach 15%. People create doubt, but we should understand. In fact, I am happy that I am among the people who know gas much more than me. And in fact, Gaurav, this was the day when I should just be there and listen them. So gas is a fuel. Particular, I will not differentiate between LNG, CNG, etc., because that those are only mediums, transport mediums. How do you transport them and take to customers? So gas is a medium which it is little difficult to transport compared to oil or coal, which you can transport in tankers or trucks. Here you need large infrastructure. And as soon as that infra is ready, gas will reach 15% without any doubt. I will give you an example of our own country, where Gujarat, where infra is there for a long time. The share of gas in energy mix is 24%, much more than what we are aspiring for country, which is only 15%. Same way, what we see at PPAC when we analyze monthly data, wherever CGDs are coming, infra is coming, the growth is exponential. It is double digit, triple digit growth which is coming even in states like Bihar, which are otherwise backward. Gas is growing because gas has reached there. So as soon as infra is in, and infra, only today I was reading ET report only that how, in fact, that is a fact, that data we also have, that how LNG terminals are not getting utilized fully. And that again is because those are not linked to grids. Only last month I was at Petronet LNG terminal of Kochi, and it is the least utilized because the pipeline from there goes up to only Mangalore and not beyond that. And as soon as those pipelines are there, 19,000 kilometer pipelines are there, and we are targeting 32 or 33. Those pipelines are there, gas increase will suddenly increase. I was in Chennai during that trip, and suddenly LPG or petrol or diesel autos are converting to CNG. CNG autos are so common now there. So I am hopeful, and everyone should be hopeful that gas will certainly grow. And it is certainly, as you said, better fuel compared to other fossil fuels. So you may call it bridge fuel or whatever, but it is certainly a better fuel. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that perspective. Very interesting. You said that demand, in fact, is following the infra build, as we see in Gujarat. So why don't we come to Mr. Singh? Adani Total is a reflection of Indian entrepreneurship and global major coming together. Big infrastructure build, also reflecting the build in Gujarat. What is your perspective, one, in terms of how we can really enhance and get to the potential that Mr. Pankaj spoke about? And for that, what is the infrastructure build required? Not just in the vicinity where you're operating, but at a national level.
No, thank you for the question. And I'd like to build upon what Mr. Pankaj has already said. I think since Gujarat was mentioned by both of you, I'd just like to say that the OECD levels of natural gas as a share of the overall energy mix is about 26%. So Gujarat, as correctly said, is the only state in the country where we have achieved sort of some parity with what the OECD is looking at. I think the rest of the country has really lagged behind, and we are flattered to deceive. You know, we've talked a lot about gas, but frankly, we've not done much. And I would like to pick on 3 or 4 themes today as to why that may have happened. I think first and foremost, as has already been mentioned, there has been a very lopsided development of infrastructure of gas. LNG infrastructure, and we import nearly half the gas that we consume in this country in the form of LNG. So it's very important to talk of LNG. And LNG infrastructure is actually overwhelmingly focused on the western part of India. Until we commissioned the Dhamra LNG terminal in Odisha earlier this year, there was in fact no LNG infrastructure at all in the eastern part of India. So infrastructure, democratization of gas infrastructure is extremely important. We cannot continue to focus gas infrastructure in one part of the country. I think the second thing is really, in my mind, the fact that from a regulation perspective, I think that a lot of disservice has been done. And through forums like this, I really want to appeal to everyone that we should not think of gas as a bridge fuel or a transition fuel. We have too often called, and I am a part of that problem, we've all too often called it an energy transition fuel, which makes it seem like it's just there temporarily. But whether you like it or not, gas is going to be there for pretty much everyone's living lives in this room. So, and as has rightly been said, gas is going to grow the fastest amongst all fossil fuels. So we need to be much more deliberate, and regulation, just as we saw the introduction of CNG buses in Delhi, post of Supreme Court order 20 odd years ago. I think gas penetration and gas replacement in very many industries, refineries, etc., can happen if regulation actually allows for it. And the final point I would like to pick upon is growth in infrastructure. At the moment, infrastructure is, because it is concentrated in certain areas, and frankly, we are still not at the level of gas infrastructure that we need. We are more often than not at the mercy of the global market for gas. We are a price taker. We have no ability to set the price and meet our price expectations because we don't have the infrastructure. Now, as long as we don't invest in our infrastructure, we are going to always be wary of the price shocks that come with LNG, because LNG is not a true commodity like oil. We don't have spot price of LNG readily discoverable by looking at Platts or NYMEX or something like that. LNG spot price is pretty much a rather opaque process. So the only way to counter that is to create sufficient infrastructure so that you do not have to be at the mercy of the seller. So in a nutshell, I would say we need to democratize infrastructure, we need more infrastructure, and we need enabling regulation. And I think if these three things were to come forward, I have no doubt that gas will actually fulfill its potential. But till now, I think we have said a lot about LNG, but the growth of gas does not reflect our stated objective of increasing its share.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Singh. I think that's interesting perspective on the domestic need and the need to fulfill our potential. Let's talk about the supply side a bit. We have here with me Mr. Laxma Reddy. He's ED at ONGC, but he's also been a pioneer at DGH, trying to look at how we can really enhance exploration across the country, get investments into India. So your view on not LNG, not just LNG, but gas per se, the domestic exploration and the global investment program. Any thoughts on how do we help get that to fulfill some part of this?
Nice, Gaurav. And on the panel, I have seen all our LNG experts are the gas experts. I am only a geologist and an exploration man. But exploration is very important with respect to the finding the gas. As we all know that only up 50% of the gas which is being consumed now is being imported in the form of LNG. But the rest of the gas we are able to meet. But of late, we have also discovered really gas reserves both on the east coast and in the northeast, and huge reserves of gas is expected in the Andaman basin. Being in DGH with a open acreage licensing policy, lot of areas were no-go areas in the east coast as well as the west coast because of the launch programs by ISRO or the defense missile programs. But all these areas were, successfully after convincing, after continuous pestering the ISRO as well as the DRDO, the area has been released. Government has been proactive. Basically, we need to effectively flag the issues to the government. Government is there to listen and do the things. And as a result, when I was there in DGH, seismic survey was carried out in Andaman. And seismic survey, the signatures which are seen on the seismic survey indicates huge gas reserves. Why I am zeroing down to Andaman is because Andaman gas, if it is discovered, market is a big problem there. Either you have to hook up the pipeline gas towards the Thailand or the Myanmar, or we need to establish a LNG plant in the Andaman and then probably bring the LNG to the mainland. That's one aspect. In fact, some people who are the interpreters, they said the suckling-like features are seen on the seismic, and the interpretation report has been placed on the DGH in National Data Repository. And we have been driving, and when I was there, the gas price discovery mechanism has been established. When it comes to standard gas, Vindhyan area is again in the middle of the country, and where ever expected that we will not discover any hydrocarbon, Vindhyan basin has produced gas. Similar is the northeast states in Tripura, and there is a excess gas in Bangladesh. Tripura gas, at one time there was no market. Ultimately, that gas is being diverted to ONGC Tripura Power Corporation there. And with Urja Ganga pipeline coming there, the gas exploration will intensify, and there was no need for a standard gas to be flared. Otherwise, initially when you are producing oil, most of the gas we were flaring. And the basin development was stalled for a long period until the HBJ pipeline has been established. So the gas discovery potential is more, and worldwide also, if you see, within India also, if you see, more and more gas discoveries are being made. Because of lack of infrastructure, most of the fields are not developed. But with LNG terminals coming in, or a small scale LNG programs coming in, probably we need to develop these stranded gas fields. And world over, the gas fields have been being developed, and in their FDP program, the LNG is a part of that FDP program. For example, Mozambique gas, they have proposed basically a huge LNG plant, so that through LNG probably the Mozambique gas can be brought to India. Similar is the situation. Qatar, you take it. I'm just entering into the geopolitics of it. Qatar gas, we are also thinking of subsea pipeline, but as well LNG plant. The Petronet LNG has had a long-term gas contracts with Qatar, and that proved to be very good, very beneficial for the country. A country like India, which has an insatiable appetite for the energy mix, and with a lot of people talking about energy transition, in fact, no energy transits actually. In fact, more and more sources of energy adds to the energy basket. So if you see, starting with the civilization, when you are using the firewood, even today we are using coal. We were today also we are using the coal, and in fact, day by day coal utilization is increasing. Similarly, oil and gas, whatever a source of energies which are coming, which is only adding to the energy basket, because the energy consumption growth is increasing, because the quality of the people's life, quality of the mobility, personal mobility coming into the area, we need more and more energy. So ultimately, no energy is going to go away or transit. It is basically, it's go on adding to the energy basket. And India, we hope, with open acreage licensing policy, with a lot of multinationals are showing the interest. The major giants like Chevron, Total, Exxon Mobil are actively coming to the India and looking at the data. For a long time, we were not giving the seismic data of East Coast to the major oil and gas companies like Exxon Mobil because of the security reasons. But ultimately, we had to convince the naval people and other people to say that the seismic data is no way going to hamper the seismic security of the country. Now the government has agreed to give the raw data, seismic data, to their processing centers located elsewhere in Houston. And through this, because anybody who puts billions of dollars, they are not going to believe your interpretation and come and invest to develop the basically oil and gas projects, because these are all capital intensive projects. And in my personal opinion, basically KG basin is yet to be seen, because the deeper horizons have not been explored, and which emulates basically Gulf of Mexico. I would rather say, we probably we need to intensify, and we need to look into the deeper horizons. And even when it comes to the western offshore also, many people say after Mumbai High discovery, no discovery was made. But it is wrong to say. The barrels of oil which were discovered when the Bombay High was discovered, probably with the production we would have finished that field within 20 years. But the more and more barrels of oil has been added to Bombay High, and more layers of added within the field, new layers of the oil and gas accumulation is coming in. So all this gas comes in, basically gas infrastructure will boost, and India is the only hope for surrounding geopolitical situation, and the countries around our country. It's the only hope, which is only the market for the gas. So we have a bright future with moving to the gas economy from 6% to 15% by 2030. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy. I think, and I can reiterate what Mr. Reddy said. Ernst & Young has been a proud partner with Mr. Reddy, with combination of DGH, ONGC, and Ministry, pushing very hard at a global level to really have these investments into India. The potential with this open acreage is huge for India itself to build and get its own gas. But let's come take a little more global perspective. We have here with us Mr. Sunit Verma. He was the CEO for GAIL USA. He has seen how geopolitics really plays out at a global level, particularly in the gas space, and how contracting, complex contracting, including tolling arrangements, can really add value for India's gas portfolio. So, your quick thoughts.
Thank you, Gaurav. Pleasure to be here at this ET Oil and Gas event. Going back to what, tolling contracts and LNG contracts and what value they add. Actually, GAIL for a long time has had the single contract which started off, early on. That was with RasGas. And this contract was amongst GAIL. There were other off-takers also, like Indian Oil and BPCL and so on. And during this, the duration of the contract, what happened was in 2013-14, the Brent prices crashed. And this single contract was based on a Brent slope and some constant. And this had a 9-month lag. And when the Brent prices crashed, the Indian customer had an option to take, alternative fuel. And since the contract was being governed by a 9-month lag of Brent prices, the LNG prices that was being offered to the Indian customer were much higher as compared to the spot prices. And as a result, what happened was that the Indian market could not absorb that LNG. And a lot of turmoil happened, and the cargoes, they started floating on the sea. So because Qatar, it was a take-or-pay contract, and GAIL had to, get along with its obligation to either take LNG or to pay for that. And whereas our Indian market was not ready to take that high-priced LNG. So that was the time there was a development, and we thought of, contracting gas based on Henry Hub. So that was a diversion from the Brent link contract. So to take care of the geopolitical situation and things like that, you need to have different indices. So that was the time we went on from Brent link to Henry Hub. And Henry Hub contract is linked to the gas prices in America. And so there was one contract which we had with Cheniere, like other people had, like Shell, BP, Exxon, and so on. And GAIL also had. And then the other contract that we had was a tolling model contract. Now, on a normal Henry Hub contract, you would have a price for gas, say 115% HH plus some $3.50 liquefaction charges. And you have to continue to take this volume. But the flexibility we took was that we will not take it on a delivered basis. We will take it on an FOB basis. So we were to take cargoes from US. And now in the process, the Indian market had not developed that time. And 2017-18 also, Indian market was not ready to take the gas. Now where do we take this gas out? So we developed a trading desk, and we started, marketing these cargoes in Latin America, in Europe. And so even though we were committed to take this volume, the fertilizer plants had not come up then. The HURL, the Matix, all the fertilizer plants have come now, but the contract started off in 2018. So that is how we were able to mitigate those volumes. So that was the FOB contract that we had that time. The other venture we moved into was a tolling model contract. Now that gives you even added flexibility. At the same time, it gives you a better price. So in a tolling model, what you do is we sourced gas in America. So we, looked for various fields like Marcellus and some in Permian and all those things. And we, bought gas from those fields, from the gas suppliers. Then we took pipeline capacity in US to move the gas from source to the liquefaction terminal. And then we took capacity, the tolling capacity in a terminal. So even if you do not want this gas into India, you can either resell the gas. In winters, the tolling model helps you in such a way that even, say, $5 gas can go up to $80. So you can sell this gas for $80, and you can, forego the tolling charges. So that was the flexibility that was offered. So that is value accretive to the downstream customer. Similarly, on a pricing perspective, suppose you get a LNG contract for say 115% HH plus say $3, something around $7. But in case you are able to optimize on gas sourcing, on transportation, and on liquefaction, you are able to get a better price. So even if you are able to, make something around 40 cents in the entire process by entering into every aspect of the chain, you are able to get, some value for the Indian customer. So that were the, major milestones that, we achieved during those times, and to get, cheap LNG into Indian market. At the same time, whenever there was not much demand that was built up, we were able to market it and, create an international portfolio. And that is how we were able to, tide over the situation. Even during the Russia-Ukraine conflict, part of the volume that was sourced was coming to India, and that was priced on HH, which still was at a reasonable level. So even though the prices were touching $80, the prices being offered to the Indian customer was sub $20. So that was how we were able to manage the turmoil during those days. Thank you.
That's amazing. I mean, you had a direct impact on ensuring that we get cheaper fuel for the country. It makes a big difference for a growth economy like India. Thank you so much for that. We'll come to Ajay ji on the Indian Gas Exchange. But also, just to give a heads up, we have Mr. Gurinder Singh here. I wanted to touch one aspect with you as well. LNG is not just about gas, it's also about rich gas being imported and therefore the petchem connectivity. I'll request a couple of minutes of yours after we finish here for your perspective on that as well. Because petrochemicals linkage with LNG also opens up a much massive opportunity for the country. But before that, we've heard Mr. Sunit talk about the flexibility required to get cheaper gas to India. But how do we make sure that the gas exchange, which we have now, how that allows much more movement and actual exchange of gas contracts, purchase and sale, not just for the country build, but also potentially for a regional build up of LNG. Please, your thoughts.
Thank you, Gaurav, and thank you to ET Energy for giving us the opportunity. So, coming to your question, basically, as SP Singh ji told, there are many demand drivers which will enable growth of LNG and natural gas in the country. So, liquid gas market is one of them, and IGX is basically working towards that. Basically, internationally also, if you see, efficient and liquid gas markets have basically resulted in growth of the demand in those markets, as well as they have given price signals which basically lead to investment decisions. So in India also, IGX is basically trying to emulate that and work in those directions. In fact, IGX has been continuously basically discovering prices in a transparent and competitive manner, taking the basically getting the right signals from the market and building it in the price, in terms of the price discovery happening on the exchange, in terms of the availability of the molecule, as well as the price at which they are sourced. So to elaborate on that, like in 2022 when Ukraine crisis were there, so because of that, prices in the international market, in the spot market, had gone up as high as $80, and it was above 50 for a continuous period. But during that period also, on exchange, the molecules were trading at half of that price. So how does that happen? Basically, if you see in India in the year 2022, roughly 158 MMSCMD gas was basically consumed, out of which 50% was domestic gas. So balance was LNG. Again, when you talk about LNG, only 95% of that LNG was basically long-term gas. Only 5% of that portfolio is spot. So people have portfolios where they can play in terms of availability of gas in their portfolio, and a buyer can take advantage of that. And how will a buyer know at what is the price at which he can get that gas? So there an exchange has a role to play of basically disseminating information, discovering prices, making trades happen. And this is what IGX did successfully in the year 22-23. In fact, in terms of milestones achieved in that year, if I can share, more than 2,300 trades have happened on IGX. The growth, year-on-year growth on IGX in terms of the volume on exchange was 319%. And that too in a year where the prices were higher, the demand, the national level demand had gone down for natural gas. In fact, if you see this year, the demand has again come back because of prices being stable. It is not low as of now, but then also the prices have been stable. It is in double digits, but then also the buyers are able to buy that gas. And when I talk about how it will help in developing the natural gas market, infrastructure helps. But at the same time, there are customers who switch to alternate more polluting fuels because of higher prices. Like if people see JKM, they feel if it is a $30 price, it is not affordable for them. But when they see Jixi, which is our India's own price index, they are able to see this is the price of $12, $13, which we can afford. So this is how trades happened in the year 22-23, and volumes grew on the exchange. And then other benefits which exchange has brought to the country, if I can just highlight, one is domestic gas was being produced in the country, but on a shorter notice, sale of that gas was not possible for a producer. So what used to happen, either the producer used to reduce the production, impacting the performance and health of the field, or that gas was flagged. Today on exchange, we have flexible contracts wherein people can trade for tomorrow's volume also. If a buyer says, I am not able to take this gas tomorrow, that volumes can be put on exchange, that can be traded on the exchange. And a producer is getting large number of buyers to participate for that same molecule, wherein he is getting the price advantage also, which in turn will basically make it remunerative for the producer to put more money in exploration. So this is how an exchange benefits the economy and the nation at large. And this has happened in the West, and we are trying here at IGX to emulate it in India also. Then in terms of buyers, we have buyers who have traded and basically earned crores of profit in the first trade itself. They are basically in their long-term contracts, they have flexibility of take or pay. So whatever cushion of 10-15% take or pay is there, which they can not take, which is basically reasonable endeavor volume above the take or pay level, that they are replacing with gas purchase on exchange. This is benefiting consumers in terms of their product cost.
So
Then,
clearly making a difference in terms of visibility and transparency and the flexibility.
and the flexibility. So these are the benefits which the exchange is bringing, and we hope to continue with this journey with the help of all our members. As of today, we have 43 members and 190 clients participating on the exchange. So for the success of any exchange, there are two main factors. One is the active members and clients on the exchange, and second is liquidity. So we can proudly say that almost all major members, major consumers of gas and producers or sellers of gas are there on the exchange. And in terms of liquidity, we are slowly trying to build it up. And as the market matures, there are reforms in terms of pipeline access, unbundling, and then in terms of taxation, if GST can be brought in, because what is happening, multiple trades can't happen when there is a tax additive at each trade.
So I
Whereas
think
in
clearly,
yeah,
sorry, we are out of time. Clearly a lot of aspects to
advantages.
discuss.
One more point I want
Sure.
to make. In Europe or in US, if you talk about TTF, there is a 142 times churn rate. That is same molecule being traded so many times. In on Henry Hub, it is 50 times. So in India, because of this tax disadvantage, that churn rate is very low, and this thing basically makes the market more efficient and availability is ensured. So these are the factors which, with reforms, availability of infrastructure going forward, we feel will improve.
Thank you. I think Mr. Satinder also spoke about the need for reforms to really build up to our potential. But just to cover that other aspect which I mentioned, Gurinderji, your thoughts on rich gas and this whole LNG potential linked to Petchem as well, given you're at the helm of that with PLL.
Yeah, so this is historical reason for India to, extract components from the rich gas and put up a petchem plant on it. Otherwise, it's not seen anywhere in the world. And it so happened that in India, whatever we were extracting, there was allocation from government at APM prices for the shrinkage which happened. You extract, so whatever you extract, you have to put back in the LNG pool. So that was withdrawn, so this has crashed. So there are only three companies in India who use ethane, the rich component, for its petchem product. One is us, other is GAIL, and third is Reliance. So Reliance is now directly importing ethane from US. So ethane needs a totally separate infrastructure. The LNG infrastructure cannot handle ethane. So Reliance has developed that. We and GAIL are still struggling to get an answer or develop that, because we have gas until 28, the rich gas. But after that, we even will have to go for the ethane route. But whatever Reliance or some Chinese companies or one or two producers in Europe have also gone onto ethane route, but that's more largely due to legacy problems. This IPCL plant in Dahej had a legacy issue, so hence they went for it. But otherwise, worldwide, people have gone wherever ethane is available and put up plants there and then shipping the end products. In US, Formosa from Taiwan, Sasol from South Africa. So everyone has gone and built plants over there. In Middle East, which is another source for ethane, so there you have royal decrees for which the ethane is priced to the producers there. Just to give since 2016, the price is fixed at $1.75 per MMBTU. So there are incentives to put a plant there which are not available elsewhere. So, and ethane becomes also a very narrow you have to then, what you get is only ethylene. The yields of cracking ethane, you produce ethylene, and then you have to figure out what kind of derivatives you have to make from ethylene, whereas naphtha gives you a very, very large range. So these are the questions people have to answer.
Thank you, Gaurav. So clearly, the potential is way beyond just energy or fueling the country, but also providing all the plastics and chemicals for us. I think we've had very interesting conversation around the potential, challenges to the potential, what India itself is doing so much to really get that potential, not just domestic, but international investments. We had perspectives on how we've actually saved so much money for the Indian consumer through the right contracting and way of thinking, and the gas exchange providing us the flexibility to really not just make the gas price transparent, but also provide the flexibility to purchase now and future. And then the linkage beyond energy into petrochemicals for the future of the country. Thank you so much for your time, everyone. It was a pleasure having this conversation. I enjoyed it a lot. I hope you did as well. Thank you.